I'm Jonathan Agee, founder and CEO of Validatar. Before Validatar, I spent 15 years in data and analytics consulting. Our clients face critical challenges of poor data quality and lack of automated data testing. There were no tools in the market that addressed both of these concerns while simultaneously building a strong culture of data quality in their organizations. Validatar is on a mission to enable organizations to build resilient data ecosystems and give business leaders the confidence to make powerful data-driven decisions. Before we get started with the demo, let's talk about how Validatar is deployed and get familiar with the architecture. Validatar is a web application and can either be deployed as software as a service or inside your network. All of your users will connect to Validatar via their web browser. Validatar connects to data using ODBC connections. As you can see, we can connect to all different kinds of data sources. Validatar then ingests the metadata into our metadata repository. This metadata is used to drive profiles and test generation. The Validatar engine executes profiles and tests at scale and stores the results in the results repository. Search gives users access to all the information in the Validatar repository at their fingertips. Most users connect to the web UI, but we also have APIs and command line interfaces for integration with other tools in your data ecosystem. Let's take a look at how Validatar can be used for data quality monitoring and as a part of your data governance solution. Here we are, we're in the Validatar Explorer interface, and we can see we have various data sources on the left. We're currently looking at our Data Vault data source. We can see that I'm the data source owner. If I pop over to the Tables tab, I can see I've got a bunch of tables going on here. I actually have a pretty good test coverage, it looks like. Most of my tables have tests running, and also most of them are passing. I do have a few failures here that I may want to drill in on. So let's take a look at this customer satellite table. It looks like we've got a few failures there. We can see immediately who's the technical data steward. Looks like maybe I would need to ask Agee some questions about this. We've got some other information about it here in our catalog. We can take a look at the columns and see if there's anything specific going on. Looks like I've got some columns with nulls in it. I wonder if those are related to those failures there. I've got this email address column, though. It looks like it's failing, and it doesn't look like it has very many nulls. Maybe we want to take a look at that. So we can see what tests we have going on here. We can see that we've got a null check test, and we also have a data format check. It's been failing. Let's take a look at that. Here we can see a test where we're pulling the customer ID, it looks like, and then the email address, and we're actually checking it for a regex. Let's go ahead and run that and see if maybe this is the problem. All right, so we've got our results here. It looks like 4 email addresses are failing this check, and it looks like maybe they have some bad characters in the email addresses that would be causing a problem for those. So I'm going to go back and get with Agee to figure out what's going on with that. Now let's take a look at another scenario. We might want to run a report here. Let's monitor what our metadata changes are happening in our system. To do this, we can use our metadata objects report, and Validatar is constantly monitoring the metadata available in each of our data sources. And so here we can see that in the last 20 days, we've actually had a few changes to our metadata. So we could click in and take a look at any one of these and see that it looks like there's been some new columns added. We could drill right into those items and take a look at them, find out what else we might want to know about that, see if anyone has documented any of the column information or data quality and testing information that we want to have on those columns. Let's take a look at some of the kinds of tests you can create in Validator, particularly focusing on those kinds of tests that you might use for your data projects. We're going to start with this test right here. In this, we're testing that the order quantity in our data vault from our sales order detail is matching exactly to the sales order detail table in our source system. So you can see we've written a query on both sides. It's a single value test. We're going to run this test and see the results. There you go. We've got a difference, something that we're going to need to take a look at. To drill into that, we would use another kind of test. We would use a key value test. Here you go. If we take a look at the script we've built, we've got two columns. We've got the key column and we've got the value column. When we run the script, you'll see those come back. We're actually summing up the order quantity, but grouping it by the product ID. So let's take a look at how Validator compares that data. We'll run the test. There you go. So we've got our keys all matched up, and then you've got your test value and your control value. Now we could filter this down and see that we've got just two that have failed. So again, now we understand that the problem with that sum is all related to the product IDs. So we know exactly where we would want to drill into in order to understand what's going on. Let's take a look at a little bit more of a complex test. So all of these tests that we've been talking about can work as a template test where you can create multiple tests from one parent, all based on metadata. So in this case, we're looking at comparing full tables of data. And we've set up variables for our primary key list and our non-primary key list of columns. And what we're going to look at is if we take a look at a child test, we can see what this created. So we've got our address ID and we've got all of the details of the addresses in this table. And we've created that query on both sides using that template test. Now we're going to go ahead and run this and see how Validator compares this data. So there we go. We've matched up. Most of them has passed. It looks like we only have one failure for address ID 552. And as we look at the data right here, we can see that maybe the issue has to do with this accent column because St. Regis on this side did not come across correctly. So we've got a mapping issue in our data that's being loaded into our test data set. Let's take a look at how Validator can be used for automated testing of your migration project data. So what we're looking at today, we've got a data vault target. This is what we're testing. This is where our data is moving to, and it's actually coming from our AdventureWorks source. And so to start off with, we can see we don't have any source mapping, and this is going to be key metadata that we're going to need for our migration testing to work. So I've mapped out my tables that I want to test in a spreadsheet. I've got some business key column information, where the sources are, those sorts of things. And we're going to go ahead and upload this metadata directly into Validator. So to do that, we're going to go over to our settings area and we're going to take a look at our data source settings, our custom metadata, and we're going to upload a file with this spreadsheet of data. So we've got our table mapping file, import that. We can see that it has updated 60 different items. So let's take a look and just verify that. There we go. We're on that address table, and we can see that indeed we've got our source mapping information has been updated. So that's fantastic. Now let's go to our quick start project for migrations, and let's import some tests and jobs. So here's our quick start. Go ahead and move on with that. We're going to tell it we want those 3 tests to come into our test folder and that job to come into the job folder. That looks great. We'll import that. Now let's go ahead and look at those tests. So we've got a row count verification template. This template test is going to run for all of our columns where we know the source schema and source table. So that's excellent. It's going to run a row count on on our data vault target, and it's going to run a row count on our source, and it's going to check those out and verify that they match. So here we can go ahead and materialize our child tests. It's going to create 10 tests. And then we can go ahead and run those tests. So let's run all 10 of those. There we go. It came back quick, and we can see that they all passed. So if we took a look in here, we can see that there were 450 on each side for the address table. So that's excellent. So now if we go over to our job that we brought in, what we can do is we can make sure that this is configured to materialize the child tests when we want to run it. Go back to our jobs list and run that job. This will take us right into our results view area. And we can see each test as it runs. Things are running. There we go. We've got our business key comparison is now running, materializing those tests and running them. As it runs, we can see we've got results. So let's take a look at our business key comparison. Looks like everything passed there. That's fantastic. If we look at our compare full tables of data, okay, so we've got some failures here. So we've got our product category looks like it passed, so things were completely identical there. If we look at maybe our product description and see what's going on here, we can see, okay, it looks like as we examine the data that there's some differences in how the data came across in our migration. And so here we have a code page error where that E with an accent on it did not come across correctly. So we're going to want to take a look at that and understand what's going on between our test data and our control data. This is why you want to use Validator for automated testing of your migration projects. We are passionate that our customers develop a high degree of data quality maturity. In order to do this, we have designed Validator to foster a culture that values data quality. We believe that there are two keys to building this maturity. So far, we have been focusing on one, automation. Let's spend a minute talking about the other, transparency. Validator supports transparency about data quality by linking the results of all of our tests and all of our validation rules directly back to the metadata in Validator. As you can see in our Explorer, we have a list of tables here, and we can see immediately what tests have been running, what tests have been passing, and what tests have been failing. If we drill into one of these tables, we can see who's responsible for the data. We can even jump in and ask questions and discuss what's going on with our table, whether there are issues or whether we need to resolve those. We can look at our tests and see which exact tests have been passing and which exact tests have been failing. And we can take a look at where our data is coming from and where our data is going to by examining the lineage of our data. These are just some of the ways that Validator fosters a culture of data quality and enables our users to trust their data in order for them to use it to make effective and powerful data-driven decisions. Thanks for taking the time to check out Validator today. We'd love to connect with you and give you a more comprehensive demo of Validator, or even do a data quality strategy session with you and your team. To connect with us, reach out to us at sales@validator.com or on our homepage of our website. Looking forward to connecting.